and coming to a resolution together is very different and much more empowering. And I feel that we were not in the, as Nat was sitting here, in the front lines of battling in Israel for women to be able to tovel alone. Because we knew that if we did that, we would never be able to continue working within this system. But we're partners in that we really believe that helping Mikvah ladies to understand why somebody would want that and how to respect every woman's privacy and space makes a huge difference.
As Naomi at this, I'm going to read, I apologize. I am so honored to be speaking on a panel with my Mikvah superhero. I'm Ariella Morkowitz. I'm the brand spanking new director of the Agam Center at OHF Shalom in Washington, D.C. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I actually graduated right outside this building, so it's really nice to be back. 12 years ago, a year into exploring my own newlywed mikvah practice, I was asked to be a volunteer mikvah attendant at the Kesher Israel mikvah, and I've been a shomeret ever since. As a shomeret, I was fascinated by the way no two women relate to their mikvah experience the exact same way. Since I personally knew many of the tovlot, the mikvah patrons that I was guiding, over time, I became troubled seeing how difficult a space it was for certain women going through the different issues in their lives. I knew why one friend was crying after she'd been cuddling someone else's baby in shul. I remember another woman irrationally yelling at me because the Costco brand of shampoo at the mikvah had been replaced with something else. And her husband really liked the smell of that Costco shampoo, and why didn't we have it? Why didn't we have it? With like panic. I remember sitting on the tile floor next to a newlywed PhD student in medieval Middle Eastern female religious law. And her course of study had led her to personally reject the practice of nidah, but my husband wants me to dunk. It goes against everything I believe in. He knows that, and he's choosing his relationship with God over his relationship with me. She was married for 4.5 seconds and was having this entire crisis of a relationship, sitting in a puddle of her own tears in a bathrobe in the mikvah. And I was horrified by how little anyone spoke about the mikvah as a hard place. It's marketed as a marriage saver, it's built up as a spiritual experience, a gift to yourself and your sex life. But why did no one talk about the disappointment when they found that to not be the case? Why didn't anyone talk about how hard it was to get undressed in front of all those mirrors and let a stranger pick hairs off your naked body? Or how painful it was to go back month after month while trying to conceive? Or how she cried when she went to the mikvah and felt totally stupid because she and her husband hadn't been having sex for the last 6 months. There was so much suffering that was happening in silence. The mikvah scandal that rocked the DC world happened, and I think I'm the only person on earth who was thrilled. Because finally, women and men were talking about all the abuses at the mikvah. All the mikvah horror stories came out on the table, and big names were saying, it's time for change. There was a battle cry for women to reclaim the mikvah. And I thought, finally, we're going to stop being complacent and tolerant, and we're going to demand better for ourselves, and things will change. And then everyone did a mikvah sweep, and the news cycle changed, and nothing else changed. Women continued to tolerate, put up with, and make excuses for their mikvah experience. Carrie Bornstein of the Fabulous Mayim Chaim wrote an article a year later, Has Anything Changed? And sadly, I agreed with her conclusion that, nope, not really. I started thinking about what kind of mikvah I would feel comfortable handing over to my then 5-year-old daughter. We're so intentional in giving over our tradition and try so hard to infuse it with love and warmth and beauty. And then there's the mikvah. I think my breaking point was when my own mom, who herself worked so hard to make my life filled with roses, when she was checking in on me after the mikvah scandal, her only way to console me was to empathize and share her own mikvah horror story. And for me, that was it. My own mom, who does everything in her power to create a beautiful life for me, she took me to my bridal immersion. She gave mikvah over to me part and parcel with all its pain and abuses as if this was okay, that this was just what mikvah is. And I'm sorry, that's not good enough for me, and it shouldn't be good enough for anyone in this room. I'm done tolerating and excusing and ignoring and accepting, and I know that I don't have to. I don't have to give mikvah like this to my daughter with a little effort. Mikvah can be different for my baby girl. And I know that's the case because of the amazing women sitting next to me and the incredible work being done by institutions like Mikvah and Immerse NYC. There is a path to better. So in the midst of my Mikvah fury, there happened to be an amazing confluence, and I know that myself in a shul with a maharat, a brand new mikvah, and a rabbi who appreciates the spirituality of the mikvah as a mikvah user himself. So I am taking that opportunity and running. Since our mikvah opened 2 years ago, I've been volunteering behind the scenes with our amazing maharat Ruth to establish our mikvah as a space that prioritizes our patrons and is open to anyone who wishes to immerse for any reason. We just launched the Agam Center, which is our vision of making a mikvah more meaningful and relevant to the community by becoming a women's center for spirituality and support, and not just a place to come immerse as part of your nida obligations. The changes we're making don't touch the halachot of nida at all. We're simply creating a space in the community for women-centered spirituality and life experience that is also home to a holy pool of water. Now, the Agam Center is still in its founding stage, but our vision is as follows, and I kind of want to explain some of the stuff we're doing that is a real translation of everything that Naomi has set out. The first piece of our vision is to make the experience of a traditional mikvah user better. If you're coming because of religious obligation, we're going to do everything possible to try to make the experience better than a burden. We want it to give something back to the user, whatever she needs it to be. We want to create that. Can you make it more spiritual for me? Can you make it more personal, less intrusive? Can it be relaxing and pampering? Can I learn something new? Can I feel safe and supported, even comforted? We want to make the experience hers. She is the client and we are the provider. She dictates what her experience is like, not the other way around. How are these translating into reality? You can make an appointment in the daytime. You can bring a friend to be your attendant. On our online appointment form, you can let us know if you want the attendant in the room, if you don't want her to check anything, if you want her to play a Bruce Springsteen CD. Literally, we've had that request. You can share anything that I would like my attendant to know so that you don't have to navigate that awkward conversation in a bathrobe. And also so that the shomeret can ask questions before the appointment if there's something that she questions and feels uncomfortable with. You come in, there's soft music playing, you can make a cup of tea. We ask for feedback with a satisfaction survey, communicating that we want to do better if this isn't working for you, and also holding our staff accountable for their service. We have perfume samples for after so you can feel a little sexier and less like chlorine. We use a lot of candles, little things like making sure to have plus-size robes available in each room. Ask, how can I help with your immersion today? We ask for their direction and offer privacy in the water. Our tefillot and kavanot are all transliterated and laminated so that nearsighted folks like myself can take them right into the water with them, and no one has to feel silly struggling with words. We're working on creating a reflection room and reference library, turning one of our areas into a cozy space where we have all of our informational materials from our partner organizations. We can host a small support group or a quiet conversation. I'm hoping that in addition to this is what abuse looks like posters, we can also share flyers with a rotation with suggestions for great sex tonight. We have a tray of memorial candles laid out. Come light a candle for your lost pregnancy, because it was your grandmother's yahrzeit this month, because you lost something or anything, and know that you're not alone in that feeling of loss. Our reference library is filled with books that you would never want to take off the shelf at Barnes & Noble. We've asked people to recommend books because they found them personally helpful, and to inscribe them to the next reader, showing that someone else in the community needed that book too, that this problem is not unique or unusual, and that it exists here in your hometown. We're making the mikvah into a place to find community rather than a place to feel isolated and alone with yourself and your baggage. We're curating a reference guide of local mental health and wellness professionals, hopefully communicating that it's normal to get help. And also, if a patron shares her issues with her attendant, our attendants are all trained to be compassionate listeners, and then say, I'm not the right person to help you through all of this, but I will help you find a professional. Our second goal is to reinfuse spirituality into the mikvah for the next generation of women. Our clergy are adding mikvah back into their pastoral toolboxes, encouraging immersion as an opportunity for closure, for inspiration, for transformation. Just like Mein Chaim and Immerse NYC are giving people access to the mikvah at a variety of life moments, anyone can come to our mikvah at any time for any reason. The mikvah is open to all ages and genders prior to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so from a young age, girls connect mikvah with coming closer to God. We're giving our girls opportunities to experience the mikvah the same way guys experience it, an optional tool for spiritual elevation. When I met mikvah, it was completely tied to my sexuality and my fertility. It did not stand alone as a vehicle for my spirituality. My daughter is meeting mikvah in a completely asexual context. It's a place people go to pray with your whole body, say a blessing to God, no different from washing her hands for Netilat Yadayim. Expose them to it, introduce them to it, don't hide it, don't make it shameful, and don't make it just about sex. And last, this is a big one, redefining the responsibilities of a mikvah and what mikvah means to the broader community. For me, the metaphor of a mikvah lady who is a community representative, literally turning her back on a woman at her most vulnerable point, standing as her naked self, that image is the antithesis of what community means to me. I think our communities can do so much better to support a woman through her life journey. Our traditional Orthodox shul communities are most often male-centered, gender-neutral if you're lucky. There is no female community space in Orthodoxy other than the mikvah. So let's not reinvent the wheel. I think we should make our mikvahs responsible for addressing the spiritual and physical well-being of the women, and should be responsible for fixing these issues, God forbid. But every mikvah should be prepared for them, welcome them with compassion, and should be equipped to direct a woman towards getting the help she needs from a professional. It's irresponsible to not. And yes, pamphlets in the mikvah are a good start, but there is a real need to be much more. A sample of what we're working on, and quickly, I'm sorry. We hired a fertility therapist to create a comprehensive approach to fertility sensitivity and support in our synagogue. We're revamping our community's postpartum support to address the isolation of those overwhelming first weeks. We're creating grassroots support communities that are self-selecting for specific issues like, dealing with an aging parent, confronting menopause, the real stuff, not the superficial conversations that we all have at Shul Kiddush about our amazing Facebook pictures, but the real hard stuff that you need someone, one person. Community feels so different when you're standing in that sanctuary knowing that there's one person in the room who understands what you're really going through. That's community. We're celebrating our bat mitzvah girls, bringing women of all ages together to welcome them into this community of women that they'll belong to for a lifetime. We're running sensitivity trainings for the community in shul, on Shabbat, what it means to walk in the shoes of our converts, families living with disabled members, couples struggling with infertility, families navigating cancer. The mikvah user demographic is largely busy women with careers and or young families. They're busy taking care of everyone else, and they put their self-care last. The Adam Center is just figuring out how to take care of the women of our community and to get